Atheistic philosopher Paul Ricci said, "It's true that everything designed has a designer." So if there's evidence of universe design, there had to be, by implication, a universe designer. Atheists like Ricci himself generally admit that basic truth. Now, granted, they usually refuse to admit the existence of design in the universe, but they admit that the presence of design would provide strong evidence of the existence of a universe designer. After all, you can't logically have a poem without there being a poet that wrote it. You can't have a painting without there being a painter. You can't have a building without a builder. So does the universe have evidences of design? Well, in fact, there are billions of examples from nature that clearly show intention, purpose, design. In fact, there are so many examples of design in the universe that notice what famous skeptic Michael Shermer said about it. The design inference comes naturally. The reason people think that a designer created the world is because it looks designed. Let's look at three simple examples that all involve eyesight. Have you ever noticed that you'll sometimes tear up when a gust of wind hits your eyes? Believe it or not, that behavior by your eyes is very important. If your eyes get too cold, they can get too dry and even freeze. Dryness will make your vision blurry and your eyes will begin to burn and get tired quickly. If your eyes stay dry or cold too long, there can be permanent damage, including blindness. So, to help keep that from happening, you have special engineering sensors in your eyes called thermoreceptors that take the temperature of your eyes. They're constantly sending that information to your brain along special power lines, communication lines called peripheral nerves. The brain, the control system for your body, it processes all that temperature information, and when your eyes get too cold, the brain sends a message back to your eyes, to the tear ducts, telling them to release tears into your eyes. Since the water in your body is so warm, when tears pour onto your eyes quickly warm up. Okay, question. Does that sound intentional, like your eyes were designed with purpose? Would it be possible for such a complicated feature to accidentally happen without a designer behind it? Well, that's not even the end of the design story, because the tears themselves reveal evidences of design as well. Tears are salty. Have you ever seen trucks spreading salt on roads when they get icy? It's much harder to freeze salty water than it is to freeze unsalty water. So the salty tears not only warm your eyes, but they make it so that cold temperatures and wind won't freeze your eyes as easily. All right, now think about this. If godless evolution were true, then eyes had to accidentally evolve over time. But what would happen to the first pair of eyes that evolved if they didn't already have tear ducts, thermoreceptors, and peripheral nerves installed and functioning correctly? Well, they would have stopped working in cold weather and would have been pointless to their host. Thereby, they would have been eliminated by evolution. Since they wouldn't have had a benefit to their hosts, evolution would tend to eliminate features like that from existence, selecting the eyes out of existence. And yet there are eyes all over the planet. The fact that we have working eyes proves that eyes, along with everything they need to work properly, were designed by an amazing engineer, God. Eyes are so amazing that engineers in Illinois studied them closely to figure out how our eyes can see with such a wide view with a single glance. Then they designed a special camera in the shape of the human eye to see what would happen. They discovered that by using the design of the eye for their camera, they were able to take wide-angle pictures without the image being distorted, just like the human eye can. If designers are making designs based on the eye, isn't that powerful testimony that the eye itself was not an accident, but was also designed? Another example of an amazing eye. When we look at the fossil record, the creature that we find at almost the very bottom of the fossil stack is called the trilobite. It's a very common fossil found at the base of the fossil record. If there is no God, if naturalism and evolution are true, then one would predict that if the trilobite was one of the very first creatures to evolve, it should be a very simple creature creature. I mean, after all, you'd think that a lot of time would be needed for complexity to show up. But unfortunately for evolution, the trilobite is not simple, which effectively falsifies evolution. It disproves it. Engineers understand that the eye of the trilobite is extremely complex. We've already seen that the human eye is complicated, but the trilobite is even more sophisticated. Trilobite eyes had compound eyes with what we call aplanatic doublet lenses, very complicated eyes, which are excellent for detecting motion and that allow clear images even in murky water, like that found at the bottom of the ocean where these creatures are thought to have lived. There's no logical explanation for how such sophisticated design could exist without the existence of an intelligent designer. The trilobite eye is evidence of the existence of God. One final example, biomimicry is a kind of design where engineers copy something found in nature in their designs, like the eye camera that we just looked at. The website for George Washington University's Biomimicry Center, whose engineers engage in biomimicry, it says, despite our seeming prowess in these component technologies, we find it hard to outperform nature in this arena. Nature's solutions are smarter, more energy efficient, agile, adaptable, fault-tolerant, environmentally friendly, and multifunctional. Thus, there is much that we as engineers can learn from nature as we develop the next generation machines and technologies. Sounds to me like nature must have a mind behind it to be so well designed, doesn't it? Have you ever played in front of the automatic doors at a store? Seeing how close you can get to the doors before they open, or seeing if you can move so slowly that they never even notice that you're there. Well, that's fun, but why do the doors work that way? Well, they have a special detector or sensor, a special camera called a motion detector that watches for movement close to the doors. There's many kinds of sensors that engineers have designed, thermal sensors that detect heat, acoustic sensors that detect sound vibrations, pressure sensors, light sensors, magnetometers that detect magnetic fields, and many others. Sensors are always designed by someone. They don't just create themselves. Well, amazingly, scientists have discovered that dragonflies are equipped with a fascinating sensor called a horizon sensor. As dragonflies move through the air with lightning speed and pinpoint turns, sometimes even flying upside down, they no doubt get confused in the same way that jet fighter pilots can get confused, what's called spatial disorientation. They need some way to tell which way is up and down. Well, engineers have figured out that dragonflies are able to do that by using 3 special little eyes called ocelli. These aren't their regular compound eyes that they use to see their surroundings. They're separate from those. Their ocelli watch the horizon, the line between the earth and the sky that you can see miles away from you, in order to make sure the dragonflies are positioned or oriented the way they want to be. All right, now, again, is it reasonable to blindly believe that ocelli would just accidentally grow on a dragonfly one day? Or is it more reasonable to acknowledge that the amazing ocelli of dragonflies were designed by a great engineer? As proof that ocelli were designed, think about this. Engineers are so amazed by the design of the dragonfly's ocelli that they're now copying ocelli design for use on their own designs, sensors called biomorphic ocelli. Okay, think about it. Why would some of the greatest engineering minds of the world try to copy something that was supposedly merely the result of accidents, not intelligent thought? It makes way more sense that the amazing ocelli of the dragonfly were designed by an even more amazing engineer, God. Truly, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made them both, Proverbs 20 and verse 12. For hundreds of other examples of divine design in the universe, be sure to check out our website at apologeticpress.org.